Beers with Chad.
Hey everybody, what is up? Chad Wesley Smith here. Beers with Chad, except coffee with Chad today because I got to go train later this afternoon. Shout out to my man Hamalu Bahau, one of the baddest jiu-jitsu players ever to have lived. I got my Coffee Den Pojada mug. And go check that stuff out. Hamalu's doing his thing every day, Pojada. One of the hardest working, most impressive, most inspiring athletes I ever had the opportunity to train. But what I want to talk about today is jumping right into what is bound to be the most exciting, most interesting weekend of football all year, the divisional playoffs. So hopping right in, Saturday leading things off, the number 6 Colts versus the number 1 Chiefs. Last week, I rode with my Texans, my preseason AFC Super Bowl representative, and the Colts made me look pretty bad, especially in the first half. And, you know, as a former offensive lineman, I should have known better than to pick a team with a bad offensive line versus a team with a very good offensive line. And what it really looked like in the game, a great offensive line led by rookie All-Pro Quentin Nelson, who's just a mean road grader, nasty kind of old school offensive lineman, and he was smashing, you know, Jadeveon Clowney through the end zone on some of those Marlon Mack touchdown runs. So in that first half, as the Colts just dominated the game physically, they dominated on the scoreboard, up 21-0, they looked incredible. The second half, yeah, you know, maybe they were playing a little too soft to coverage or whatever it was, but they definitely showed some weaknesses there. Now, as every analyst has been saying, the Colts are coming in house money. Nothing to lose, as they've got, you know, they're the 6th seed. They were rated the 32nd best team in the NFL going into the season, which Frank Reich, their head coach, reminded them of after week 17, versus, you know, the number 1 juggernaut, for lack of a better term, Kansas City Chiefs, with the likely MVP at quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. So you got this team, no pressure. You got the other team, number 1 seed, a lot of pressure coming with them, and a team under Andy Reid who has notoriously not handled that pressure well. Now, with all that said, I think as we look at the game, if, and this is a pretty likely scenario, that physical Indianapolis Colts offensive line with running back Marlon Mack is able to control the clock to some degree, you know, able to pound the ball, able to keep that incredibly prolific Kansas City offense off the field while keeping that incredibly pedestrian Kansas City defense on the field, we could have a pretty interesting game. With that said, Andrew Luck, Captain Andrew Luck, is going to have to throw the ball well for the Colts to be able to stay in it. You're not going to hold the Chiefs down into a 21-17, 24-21 type of game. Their offense is just too explosive for that. But as long as they can keep it close, because while the Chiefs' offense is defense is very poor overall, they do rush the passer well, and they have a lot of opportunities to rush the passer because they score so many points and get up, and teams are playing from behind. So while they give up a lot of passing yards, maybe they could get after Andrew Luck in that type of situation. Though if J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney and Whitney Merciless couldn't get after him, I don't know that the Chiefs are going to get after him either. So the Colts really only hope, pound the ball, control the clock, let Andrew Luck, who is just a phenomenal player, people sleep on his athleticism too. Wow, can he really run the ball as well? You know, pound the ball with Mac, let Luck run the ball some as well, let Luck be precise, get the ball out of his hand quick, control the clock, short passing game, play action over the top to T.Y. Hilton. You could have an interesting game from the Colts. Now, overall, the Chiefs roster is just so much more talented than the Colts. If Sammy Watkins is back from injury, you're going to have him and Tyreek Hill on the outside, with Tyreek Hill all over the place. Travis Kelce, you know, running down the middle of the field, and there's just too much talent there for the Colts to contain. As exceptional as All-Pro rookie Darius Leonard has been at middle linebacker, they're just lacking the athletes to match up with what the Chiefs have. So I think Mahomes gives the Andy Reid-led Chiefs a new sense of confidence that they're not going to be that Chiefs team that chokes, that gets a big lead like they did last year with Alex Smith, and then starts to just throw all these underneath passes, that they're going to keep their foot down on the gas pedal. And I'm expecting here something like 34-24, 34-27 Chiefs beating the Colts. But man, watch out for the Colts, as they have a ton of draft picks and a ton of cap space. And obviously they know how to draft really well, as they drafted 2 rookie All-Pros. The first team since the Chicago Bears had Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus to have 2 rookie All-Pros from the same team. So pretty amazing to be in that company. Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson, along with Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus. So moving on to what is my favorite game of the weekend, the most interesting game, the highest profile game, the Dallas Cowboys coming to Los Angeles to face the Los Angeles Rams. I grew up a Cowboys fan. My best friend is a diehard Cowboys fan, but I have embraced the Rams in their return to Los Angeles, got to spend some time with their strength and conditioning staff in the preseason, and I'm definitely a Rams fan. So I'm rooting for the Rams here, though I do like the Cowboys as well. A lot of interesting things going into this game. If you would have asked about a Cowboys-Rams matchup, back in Week 8, when the Cowboys were 3-5 and the Rams were 8-0, it would have been a no-brainer. Jared Goff was just shredding defenses. Go back to that Thursday night game against the Vikings, in which he looked like the best quarterback in the NFL, throwing incredible deep balls. Gurley was chasing the touchdown record, and the Cowboys were just boring offensively. No chunk plays, a young, talented defense, but not the defense you see ahead of you now. So really, you have this surging Cowboys team versus not a Rams team that limped into the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination, but a Rams team that definitely was not, for the last 5-6 games of the year, not the incredible offensive powerhouse that you saw in the first 10, 11 games of the year. So I think that is where the question comes in. At the beginning of the year, I said about the Rams, if they had one weakness, it was going to be depth. When you spend all this money on the big stars, you bring in Sue, you bring in Peters, you bring in Aqib Talib, it doesn't leave you a lot of money for everyone else. You give Gurley the big contract, Donald the big contract. So they lack depth, they lack talent to some degree at the linebacker position. And I think that lack of depth really showed in the last 5 or 6 games of the year, as they got beat up. Talib out a lot of the year, Gurley having some injuries, where, go back to last season, the only injury that the Rams had was Greg Zuerlein in Week 15, Greg the Leg, their kicker. And as much as injury is influenced by the great strength and conditioning staff, Ted Rath, Eddie Grayer, and the guys over there at the Rams, it's also some about luck. And they didn't have quite as much luck this year with the injuries, so had some guys out, and just, with Cooper Kupp going out, just didn't have that same super explosive offense in the last few games of the year. But what the Rams did have the good fortune of is that by playing so well early in the year, they earned the ability to kind of rest some guys, particularly Todd Gurley, for the last couple games, and build some momentum against, albeit very bad teams in the Cardinals and 49ers in their last two weeks, plus the bye week. So what you get is a rested Rams team that, at their best, is extremely talented. They can pound the ball physically with Todd Gurley, and that's what I think people overlook about the Rams. Yeah, they get all these big chunk plays, and they use the jet sweep motions and fly motions and throw the ball deep and do all that great stuff, but they are a physical running team with Todd Gurley and CJ Anderson now. They've got weapons all over the field, so it's going to become a question of, are the Rams rested or rusty? If the Rams are rested, you get a healthy Todd Gurley, you get a Sean McVay offense who's had an extra week to prepare against a very, very tough Cowboys defense. But you get rested, refreshed guys on the Rams. I think if that's the case, you're going to see, a game like a 27-24, maybe 31-24 game for the Rams. Now, if you get a rusty Rams team and some of that inconsistent play from Jared Goff as he had later in the year, then the Cowboys, the Cowboys going to pound the ball with Zeke. The Cowboys need to have Dak Prescott run the ball. He's an extremely effective running the ball, and of course, all these teams are worried about having their quarterback run and him getting injured. Well, right now the Cowboys are in the best position that they've been in over a decade. They're in the divisional round. They've got momentum. They've got this young, talented team. They've got guys who are going to have to get paid soon. So you better win now. You can't play for the future. So basically, run Dak. Of course, run Zeke. Get Zeke 30 touches. But let Dak take off and run where he's very dangerous, where he's very effective. Get him on the move, play action, rollouts, bootlegs. Get him on the move, run threat options. Amari Cooper has been a great addition to their offense. Gallup has been playing well. Tavon Austin showed some flashes last week in the punt return game, and he's definitely going to be motivated going against his former team in the Rams. If they can be aggressive with Dak, know that if he gets hurt, well, at least you gave it, a real shot. I think that's sort of the attitude they need to take with Dak. Like, if he dies, he dies, but let's get the most out of him we can right here. Then you can have a very interesting game, because the Cowboys are going to be super tough against the run. It's going to be hard for Gurley to run the ball. The Rams have not been tough against the run this year. I wish, I was hearing Ndamukong Suh's name called a bunch throughout the season, and I really can't think of any significant plays he's made. So if they can pound the ball with Zeke, control the clock, get Dak in a good rhythm, get Dak moving, it's going to be, man, this is just a really, really hard game for me to pick, because I think there's some unknowns with the Rams coming off the bye week, and if they are maybe a little bit rusty, and if they're going to play like they did, the last few weeks of the season, save the last 2 weeks where they were just playing very, very poor teams. But if they built up momentum with that and now are a rested team, I think the Rams take it. But this is not a great matchup for the Rams because of how physical the Cowboys are running the ball, because of how tough the Cowboys defense is in all facets, stopping the run, rushing the passer, the athleticism of those young linebackers. I'm very, very excited to see this game. And I'm going to say Rams 31, Cowboys 27, in what is an extremely exciting, entertaining game. And the home field advantage of the Rams, is that negated some by the fan presence of the Cowboys. LA teams are not known for really coming out to support that well, where the Cowboys fans are definitely going to travel. And I think one more X factor here could be Wade Phillips, longtime coach and coordinator for the Cowboys, is the D coordinator for the Rams. Can he really cook up something to stop Ezekiel Elliott, as the Rams, again, have been poor against the run this year, but the Rams defense got to play disciplined football, stop the run. That happens at the line of scrimmage, maybe a half yard of penetration, where as great as Aaron Donald and as talented as Ndamukong Suh and Dante Fowler are, they love to rush the passer and get upfield, and that's going to leave some lanes. So I want to see a disciplined Rams defense. I want to see a rested Rams offense for a 31-27 Rams victory. Moving to Sunday, another very interesting matchup, as the whole weekend is. The other LA team, really the Costa Mesa team, they practice just down the street. The Los Angeles Chargers go to Gillette Stadium to take on Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots. As I said last week, the Chargers are the most talented team in the AFC. If every team in the AFC played their best football, I think the Chargers would win. They've got tons of offensive playmakers, with Phillip Rivers distributing the ball to Gordon, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, even an aged Antonio Gates. the Hunter Henry, their young tight end. They've just got a ton of playmakers. On defense, Melvin Ingram, incredible last week against the Ravens. Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Devontae Perryman. So many talented players on the Chargers team that if they play their best, I think they win this game. But it's such a big if because the Chargers have such a history of inconsistency. It seems that they've solved the field goal issues. Their field goal kicker was great last week, kicking like four or five field goals against the Ravens. But this is a different animal. This is the Patriots. This is, potentially a bad weather, snowy type of game in Gillette Stadium. A cold Sunday morning out there. So the Patriots are currently 4-point favorites, and I think that's a fair number. It's tough to trust the Chargers in these big playoff situations, but if you're just looking at the personnel, man, the Chargers are so much better than the Patriots, and the Patriots defense has been playing better, and Gilmore, great defensive back, but he can only cover one guy, and the Chargers have three very, very explosive wide receivers that need to be dealt with. The Patriots pass rush, if it can get some pressure on Phillip Rivers, but the Ravens couldn't really do that too much last week, and they're a far superior defense to the Patriots. So it's going to come down to the scheming of Belichick and McDaniels and all of them versus the Chargers staff led by Anthony Lynn. And I think that's most people's big concern, is that Belichick is going to put the Patriots over the top. Depending on what the weather is like in this game, that's going to certainly affect the score. I'm voting a little bit with my heart here, maybe a bit more than with my head, but I'm picking the Chargers. I'm thinking Chargers 21, Patriots 20. Great game. Chargers move on to the AFC Championship in what is going to be a very, very exciting game. A huge win for Phillip Rivers, as he's, I think, never beaten Tom Brady. But Phillip Rivers is a man who has his 9th kid on the way. So snow, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, pressure, doesn't mean shit to Phillip Rivers because he's raising 9 kids, so he's ready to handle anything that life throws at him. Finally, the Sunday afternoon game, the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles versus the #1 seed New Orleans Saints. Now, just a few weeks ago, the Saints beat the absolute brakes off of the Eagles, beating them by like 40 points. So on paper, there's no way that you can look at this and be like, oh yeah, but the Eagles they've improved 40 points since that last game, and now they're going to give the Saints a good run. But the last couple weeks of the season, Saints lose to the Cowboys. Beat the Buccaneers, but that's the Buccaneers. Very, very close game against a not great Panthers team. Very, very close game against a talented but inconsistent Steelers team. And then the last week of the season, sitting a lot of guys, lose to Carolina. But they were games where Drew Brees was throwing for 160, 180, 200 yards, not the 350-yard performances that you typically expect from him. And both Ryan Ramczyk and Andres Pete a little bit beat up for the Saints. As crazy as it is, the Eagles have a great shot in this game. The Eagles' pass rush is incredible. Fletcher Cox, Timmy Jernigan, Brandon Graham, Michael Bennett, they're going to get after Drew Brees. Even though the Saints do have a very good offensive line, those guys are going to get after Drew Brees and get him off of his spot. The Philadelphia offense, it has some unquantifiable quality brought along with Nick Foles, some confidence, belief in what they're doing, and I think that's the thing for the Eagles, is the Eagles believe that they can go in and beat the Saints. The Eagles believe that they can go and win the Super Bowl, because guess what? They did it just a year ago with the same backup quarterback at the helm. So matchups wise on paper, Saints are gonna have all these statistical advantages throughout the season because they were 13-3 and the Eagles were 9-7. Because the Saints beat the Eagles, just 6 weeks ago. They beat them 48-7. So now you have that same team coming back into town, and of course you're going to beat them again. You beat them by 41 points last time. But I think that belief that the Eagles have in themselves is very, very powerful. Nick Foles has got some kind of magic going on, or I could be totally wrong, and it's another ass whooping like they gave them, 6 weeks ago. But my pick, Saints versus Eagles. My heart wants to go with the Eagles because it's such an interesting thing with Nick Foles, but I'm going to go with my head. I'm going to go with the Saints. I think the Saints get it done, probably not quite by the 8 points that they are favored by, but I would see something like a 34-27, 34-28 win for the Saints, setting up that huge NFC Championship matchup of Saints-Rams, which was such a great game earlier this year. So I'm pumped to watch the games this weekend. It's going to be a really fun weekend of football. I won't have to go train after, so I'll be able to have some beers then. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Beers with Chad on iTunes, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, or Stitcher. Drop me a 5-star review on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.